A substitute teacher gives a Bible to an inquisitive middle school student, and the rest of the story is unbelievable. This is the CitizenLink Report. Hi, I'm Kim Troby. You know, it's been said that no good deed goes unpunished, and that's especially true in the case of Walt Tutka. Walt was a retiree who just wasn't ready to quit, so he decided to work in his area as a substitute teacher. Well, when a middle school student asked him where the phrase, "and the last shall be first and the first shall be last," came from, well, that's when Walt's trouble began. I spoke with Hiram Sasser of Liberty Institute. He's legal counsel for Walt Tutka.
This started frankly, with Walt Tutka retiring from his long occupation working for an electric company, and deciding he wanted to serve the community in some way. So he started serving as a substitute teacher for multiple school districts in his area, and Phillipsburg being one of them, and the one that he substituted the most because it's his local school district. And he had a stellar record. Everything was going great. But what happened was he held a door open for a line of students, and when the last student walked through, he just happened to say, well, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And the kid asked, well, where does that come from? And he said, well, it's a famous quote from the Bible, and that's where Walt left it. Days later, when he was substituting again there, the student came up to him and asked him again, where did that quote come from in the Bible? And Walt actually didn't know exactly, and so he just said, "Well, it's somewhere in the Bible," and he kind of dodged the kid. And over the ensuing days, when he was substituting, the kid kept asking, and so finally Walt happened to look it up so he would know. And when the kid asked, he said, "Look, here it is." And he opened up his Bible and he pointed to it. And he said, "This is where it is in Matthew." And he said, "Now you can look it up at home." And the kid said, "Well, I don't have a Bible at home." And Walt just spontaneously said, "Well, here, you can have mine." And it happened to be his personal Bible. And that's what happened. And about 45 minutes later, Walt's getting called into the principal's office, and the principal's holding up that Bible going, "Did you give this to a student?" And that's how it got started.
Wow, 45 minutes. Did the kid tell the principal? How did that happen so quickly?
Well, we don't know what transpired from the time he handed the Bible to the student to the time it was in the principal's hands and he was holding it up like it was contraband. We don't know what transpired. We still haven't received a full answer from the school district on that.
Now tell me where the case is at right now.
Well, it's an employment case, and so you have to go through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission first, and they have to make a determination. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission did a very thorough investigation. They asked for a lot of documents from both sides, did a lot of interviews, and just a lot of interaction and investigation. And they came down with a decision it's their final decision, that the school district, the Phillipsburg School District, violated the law when it fired Walt Tutka for handing the Bible to the student.
Now, talk to our viewers a little bit about the background in the Bible and law, and specifically the Bible on campus in the law, in the Constitution. Where does that all come down?
Well, the Supreme Court's been very clear that teaching about the Bible for academic purposes is not only constitutional, it should be encouraged. And that's what was going on here, is that Walt was simply responding to an intellectually curious student who wanted to know where a very innocuous quote was from. It's not your sort of typical evangelical quote. It's just a regular thing that he just said spontaneously. And but what happened was the school district knew that Walt Tutka belonged to a group called Gideon's International, that he was a known Gideon. And the reason we know that they knew that and that they had a problem with Gideons is that there was a time when the Gideons wanted to hand out Bibles on the public sidewalk, a different time, way earlier in the year. And the Gideons had asked for permission from the police. Can we do this in this town? And the police said, yes, as long as you give us a list of names who it is. They just want to make sure it's not, somebody weird handing stuff out right outside the school. And so Walt's name happened to be on that list, but Walt did not participate in that because Walt didn't believe that it was okay to participate in giving Bibles out, even though it's after school, and it would have been perfectly constitutional to participate in giving Bibles out on the public sidewalk at a school in which he was actually substituting. And so he didn't actually end up participating. But what happened is the school district responded by having this email to all their administrators, be on the lookout for these Gideons who are going to be on our property giving out these Bibles. So we know that they had some sort of problem with the Gideons and that they knew that Walt was a Gideon, even though he was inadvertently on the list.
It sounds ominous when you say they had a list of these people who were Gideons. Is that where we're headed in our country? Is that pretty soon, if you're involved in a group like that, pretty innocuously, that you're going to be on a list of people to watch out for?
I was being interviewed by the Wall Street Journal for an article, and the reporter asked me, "Is it really this bad in America that if you're sort of a known out Christian, out of the closet, that in that particular case, it was about working, and that you're going to be branded as someone who's unworthy of being able to work in corporate America?" And I asked him to do a very simple experiment. Will you put on your Twitter and Facebook that you believe in the biblical definition of marriage? You can tell everyone later that it was just an experiment, but just put it with no explanation other than that on your Facebook and Twitter, and let's leave it there for about an hour or two, and let's see what happens. And he goes, "Well, what do you think is going to happen?" I said, "I think you're going to be fired in about 2 hours. That's my prediction. But you can disprove me by doing it. But I'm sure they'll let you explain afterwards that it was just all as an experiment," which they probably wouldn't accept that. And so I think that if you are in corporate America or you work at a big government agency, if you come out of the closet as a Bible-believing Christian, I think you do risk losing your job.
It's a new day in America, huh?
It's a scary day. And if you don't believe me, just run the experiment. Just put on your Facebook and Twitter that you believe in the biblical definition of marriage. Even if you don't, just do that experiment and let's see what happens. And let's see if you get fired or not. Come back and let us know if you were fired and if people accepted your explanation that it was simply for an experiment.
Hiram, had Walt had any problems with this school in the past? Had he ever been disciplined by the administration or anything before this?
Walt is sort of like a model citizen. His kids, I think his son graduated from Rutgers Law School near the top of his class or at the top of his class. I mean, he's just sort of the salt of the earth type of person. I can't imagine that he actually exceeds the speed limit. He might, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's that type. He's just that type of sort of rule abiding person that just wants to follow the rules and do the right thing.
What's going to happen next?
Well, what's going to happen next is the school district is going to have to decide what they want to do. I mean, do they want to continue to fight this, or do they just? All we're asking for is that Walt get his job back. And there's just a few days of work that they should compensate him for it, sort of a small amount of $85 a day. Other than that, that's all we're asking for. Yet they've continued to fight. They've probably spent more money this week on lawyer fees than is at stake in this case. There's just no money at stake in this case, really. And so I don't know what they're going to do, but they've been talking to the press like they want to fight us all the way. I don't know why, but apparently the EEOC telling them they broke the law is not enough for them.
For Walt's part, he is most concerned about the student.
He was in the office there, and I could see him when I was walking. And before I even entered through the doors, they had a window there and a door, and I could see him. And I said to myself, "This is not good. This is not good at all." He looked as though he was distraught. The student needs to know he did nothing wrong. He didn't do anything to get me in any kind of trouble. And you know what? To this day, it's been over 2 years. That question still remains. Did anybody speak to the student and explain to him that, again, he didn't do anything wrong and he didn't do anything to get me into any kind of trouble?
The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has ruled the school was wrong to punish Tutka And yet, the school says it's going to pursue the case all the way through the courts. We want to say thanks to Hiram Sasser of Liberty Institute and Walt Tutka for joining us today. And thanks for all of you who've taken time to share your thoughts and encouragement. You can always let us know what you're thinking at mail@citizenlink.com. And we encourage you to pray for our elected officials and for our nation, and especially for our Christian teachers who are trying to make a difference in the lives of students. And remember, stand tall and be heard.